So I've decided to just jump on without warning, which is a bit naughty of me because I'm still hiding a little bit. I'm a bit camera shy still, and I'm a bit nervous about people watching live. But I'm going to come and do this anyway, so I'm just going to come and do it nervous and camera shy because what else is there to do? I've had intuitive guidance to come on and talk to you all about a common misconception about abusers. And this is something that gets perpetuated within spiritual communities in particular. And I just wanted to come on and share an alternative view on it and see what you think. And I'm happy for you to comment or ask questions. And if you do come up, I don't think anybody's watching at the moment, but if you do come along to watch, whether it's replay or live, feel free to ask questions or write comments, because even if you're watching the replay, if I see your question, I'll either answer it if I feel guided to, or I may even come on and do another video to answer it for you, depending on what you ask and what you want. Okay, so let's talk about what abusers are after. Yeah, because people say they're after your light. In other words, people say things like, oh, they only go after people that are strong and positive and confident and doing well in life. And that's actually not true. And I'll speak about that in a moment. But they also say things like abusers are after your light, like they want to steal your light. And that isn't true either. So I wanted to just come on and share what's actually happening with an abuser and a victim in terms of light. Okay, so perpetrators of abuse are triggered by your light. They don't like your light. They don't want you to be standing in your power, in other words, in your light. If they wanted just that, they would be codependent, and I'll speak about that in a moment. So what I'm going to say is, abusers are after your darkness. Now, I know darkness, the word darkness can sometimes be misinterpreted to mean badness or evil, but that isn't what I mean. By darkness, I mean all of the qualities and attributes you have of yourself that you prefer to hide or limit from view because you believe that they make you unlovable. So, for example, and this is very prevalent in women, we get conditioned to be nice girls, good girls, great wives, which means being compliant and being a slave and doing everything for everyone. It basically translates to you must betray yourself to be lovable. And so things like, for example, anger, fear, jealousy, things like that would all be in the darkness. They'd be pushed down and hidden from view so that we remain believing that we're lovable. And some other attributes of darkness can be things like your insecurities, your anxieties, your doubts, your low self-esteem, low confidence, anything that stops you from standing in what we might term a higher vibration, a more positive, solid state, connected to the source of us. In other words, you might think of that as being connected to God or Goddess, to the divine, to the source of all, to the creator, to nature, however it is for you. And abusers don't want you in that state because that state actually instigates healing and they don't want to be healed. They want to remain abusive because that's actually preferable to them. And it is a conscious choice. That's probably a whole nother video for another time. But it is a conscious choice that they make. So they choose to abuse you. And when they're making this choice to abuse you, what they're trying to do is trigger your darkness. And they want to trigger your darkness for a number of reasons. The first is because they don't want you in your light, because that's your power. And they want to be the powerful one, because abuse is about power and control. The other is that your light triggers them, and they don't want to be triggered into healing. They want to stay in what they feel is a more powerful, in control state, which is a state of non-healing, non-evolution. The other is to destabilize you, because then you're easier to control and have power over. And the other reason is that they're sent here to alert you to your wounds and your darkness, so that you will heal it and bring in more light. But you can't do that whilst you're with them. And not everybody is in a position in an abusive relationship to leave it. Again, that's probably another video for another time. I'll explain why that is. And this is very, very different to being in an argumentative relationship. It's different to outbursts of rage or anger. It's different to being with someone who's unreasonable, which is what people who haven't been abused often think abuse is, and it isn't. It's got absolutely nothing to do with those things. It's very different. So what an abuser will do to trigger you into those states of darkness, they will be in your psyche. And they actually tend to be very intuitive, do abusers. It's just that they use it for harm and hurt, whereas most intuitive, empathic people use it for good. And they will be into your darkness, and they will be triggering it so that you're, as much as possible, overwhelmed with darkness, which then puts you into a mirror state, same lower state that they're in. So they're trying to hold you down in the darkness with them. And they do this so that they don't feel alone in the darkness. And they do it so that they can focus on your pain and your suffering instead of having to turn inward and heal their own pain and their own suffering. And they do it on purpose, and they know what they're doing. Another common misconception about abuse is that it's almost accidental, or it's because they're drunk or they're jealous. Or no, these people are calculating. They know exactly what they're doing, then they plan it. And they're always 10 steps ahead planning it. So as they're doing one thing to you, they've already been thinking about 20 other things that they can do. And this is why the victims end up in such a state, partially why they can't leave, but there's lots of other reasons why they can't leave too. But they're in a constant state of survival and red alert inside them, because they're soon becoming completely overwhelmed by darkness. Now, this type of abuse is what we would refer to as psychological abuse. Some people might call it narcissistic abuse. And it's basically where somebody is in your psyche. They know what your wounds are. They've usually done a fact-finding session as part of their love bombing. And they've decided to find out all the different things that make you anxious, insecure, things that you find challenging and difficult. And they're going to keep triggering that until you're very destabilized and therefore easier and easier and easier to control. And so it just gets worse and worse and worse with them. That's why people often say, God, it just got worse and worse. It just went on and got worse and worse. Because, of course, once you're already in survival state, if somebody's then instigating further and further, deeper and deeper survival states, it does get worse. Because your light is suddenly spent up on surviving, not on being, not on leaving. You know, and this is why when people say, oh, I wouldn't have that, I'd stand up for myself, I'd put them in their place, they don't actually understand what abuse is. Like I say, it's not a row or an argument or somebody unreasonable. If somebody was in your psyche and all the wounds that you maybe don't even know that you have suddenly all got activated at once, like having salt just poured on all of them, and you were constantly held in that state, you would not be sticking up for yourself, because all of your energy and your attention and your awareness would be on the pain. I think it's a really important conversation to have because of that, and I really wanted to come on and just bust that myth for people, because they're not after your light. If they were after your light, they'd be codependent, so I'm going to speak about that now. Okay, so with codependency, we have someone who doesn't like the pain of another person because it triggers them, makes them feel uncomfortable. And often what goes with that is things like people pleasing, toxic positivity, where They just want everything to be positive all the time and nobody to ever be negative and nobody to talk about anything negative. And it's actually because their sensitivity is triggered. You know, their empathy and their sensitivity is triggered by other people's pain because they empath that pain. And so somebody who's codependent will try and keep someone constantly in the light, in the positive, and in all the good attributes. And these are the kind of people who, if you were crying, let's say your budgie died, and you were just like, oh, my budgie died, and they meant the world to me, and I don't know how I'm going to go on. They'd be like, oh, well, just think about all the good times you had. In other words, I want to interrupt this healing that is already underway that you are speaking of because it makes me uncomfortable. So codependents are similar to abusers. They're not abusive, of course. I'm not saying they're abusive because they're not. But they try and hold you in the light constantly and they don't want any negativity or any darkness to be there. Whereas abusers want all darkness, no light. And codependents want all light and no darkness. And of course, we all know that a healthy relationship is actually one where the darkness is safe to be transformed within the container of love of that relationship. That's a healthy relationship. Codependent is dysfunctional and abuse is, of course, abuse. So I hope that clears that up for everybody. If you've got any questions or any other topics that you would like me to cover, then please give me a shout. I have done some infographics about some other spiritual misconceptions about abuse. They're over on my Facebook page, which is at Luna Louise Anna, so you can find them there. Or come and find me on Facebook if you're watching this on YouTube. It's Luna Anna. You can just come and add me. And I do have a website as well, which is lunalouiseanna.com. So you can go there and have a look at all my events and the healing that is available for women who have abuse in their past. So give me a shout if you're interested in that. Okay, so thanks so much for joining me and for watching. I hope it helps. I'd love to hear your comments and your stories relating to what I've just talked about. Do let me know. And if, like I say, if you've got any questions about abuse, you can ask me anything. I'm very open, so don't worry about it being offensive or upsetting me. I'm very open to talking about it. And as you will have noticed, I talk about it very honestly. Okay, so please leave me a comment or a question if you want to. And thanks for listening and watching. Take care. Bye.